All right, so picture this. You just made the decision. You're done. 30 years of alarm clocks, Monday morning meetings, annual reviews. It's over. And the first thing most people do, and I mean within hours, the texts go out, the Facebook post goes up, the neighbors hear about it. And look, I completely get that impulse. It's a massive milestone. It deserves to be celebrated. But here's the thing. The second you tell people that you've retired, that's also the second that everyone starts having opinions about how you should be spending your time and your money. Trips get planned, family visits get organized, spending decisions start happening before the structure is even in place. And those first decisions that you make in retirement, they set the tone for the next 25 to 30 years. So what I want to talk about today is what to do before any of that happens. Welcome back. My name's Jason. I retired 9 years ago at 39, and now I spend way too much time thinking about retirement and all the planning that goes into it. And right now, if you look around, it's full cherry bloom season here in Osaka, Japan. It's absolutely beautiful. If you ever get the opportunity to come here during cherry blossom season, just do it. But we're here today to walk through 10 things that you should quietly upgrade the moment that you decide you're retiring. These are the 10 most important things to do before that big announcement, before the party, before the outside world has any opinion about what you do next. Because here's what most people don't realize. The structural decisions that you make in those first few months of retirement, they echo for decades. If you get them right and your retirement works for you, miss them and you're catching up for years. And honestly, number 7 on this list is the one that catches the most people completely off guard, even the ones who've done pretty solid planning. So make sure you stick around for that one, because it's not what you'd expect. And look, I'm not talking about buying a new car or redecorating the house. These are financial, legal, and personal upgrades. You know, the unsexy stuff that actually determines how well your retirement goes. So let's get into it. Okay, upgrade number 1, and this one sets the foundation for absolutely everything else, is your withdrawal strategy. See, here's the thing. For your entire working life, the financial game was pretty simple, right? You earn, save, invest, repeat. But the moment you retire, that whole question flips. Now it's, well, which account do I pull from? How much? In what order? And most people, they do the default. They go to whichever account has the most money sitting in it. Usually it's the traditional IRA or 401k. And I get why. That's where the bulk of your savings are. It feels logical. But every single dollar that comes out of a pre-tax account gets added to your taxable income. That stacks on top of Social Security income. That can push Medicare premiums up through what's called the IRMA surcharges. And once you start pulling heavily from it, you're setting the tax tone for the next 30 years. Vanguard's Advisors Alpha research actually found that getting the withdrawal order right, that alone can add up to over 1% in net annual returns, depending on your situation. So if you have a $700,000 portfolio, even a 1% improvement is $7,000 a year, every year, and that compounds. And that's purely from pulling from the right bucket first. So before you touch a single dollar, you want to know which account you draw from in year 1. What's your window for Roth conversions? And how do you keep your taxable income in check before required minimum distributions start forcing the issue at 73? Real quick, if you're someone who's approaching retirement and feeling there's hundreds of moving pieces that you're supposed to be managing all at once, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it's helping. I put out content like this every week and it costs you absolutely nothing. All right, so upgrade number 2 is health insurance. And if you're retiring before 65, this one is urgent. Most people don't realize that their employer coverage doesn't phase out gently. It ends. Hard stop. Often on your last day of work, sometimes at the end of the month. I mean, your options are COBRA, which keeps your existing plan, but now you're covering the full premium, both your share and what your employer was paying, or you look at the ACA marketplace. And here's what most people don't realize about the marketplace. If you manage your income intentionally, like we do, and this ties directly back to that withdrawal strategy that we just talked about, you might qualify for subsidies that significantly cut your monthly cost. We're sometimes talking the difference between $1,000 plus a month and something far more manageable for comparable coverage. But this only works if your income is structured correctly. And that decision needs to be made before you retire, not after. This is also why these first two upgrades aren't really separate choices at all. They're two parts of the same decision. Upgrade 3, and this is where it gets really interesting, is your lifetime tax plan. See, when you're working, tax planning was mostly reactive. Maximize the 401k, maybe itemize, wait for April. But in retirement, the decisions that you make in year 1 set the baseline for the next 25 to 30 years. And the window you're sitting in right now, those early retirement years, before Social Security starts, before RMDs kick in, that may be the lowest tax bracket that you've been in since your 20s. And if you're not using that window for strategic Roth conversions, capital gains harvesting, provisional income management, you're leaving it closed. And the frustrating part is that most retirees don't figure this out until April, when their accountant explains what they could have done differently. And by then, the year's income, it's already locked in. The window, it's shut. So before you spend $1, you want a lifetime tax model. Not just what's my bracket this year, but what does the full picture look like over the next 30 years? And how do I make every decision with that in mind? Upgrade 4, Beneficiary Designations. And this one's quick, but it's incredibly high impact. Here's the thing that most people don't realize. A beneficiary designation on a retirement account overrides your will. Doesn't matter what your will says. Whatever name is on that form at the brokerage, that's where the money goes, every time. And when did most people fill out those forms? When they first opened the account. That's like sometimes 20 to 25 years ago. If you've had a divorce, a remarriage, a grandchild born, or if an original beneficiary has passed away, you need to update these. It takes, maybe like 30 minutes? It costs nothing. And it might be the single highest impact action on this entire list. Upgrade 5, and I'll be honest, this is the one that most people are guiltiest of putting off, is your estate documents. We're talking about your will, your healthcare directive, your durable power of attorney. You probably had these drafted back when your kids were young and your financial life looked completely different. Retirement changes your income sources, your account structure, your overall picture. Those old documents, those are written for a different version of your life. Now, you might be thinking, well, it's probably fine. I mean, the basics are covered, but fine and exactly what you intended are two very different things when it actually matters. And it always seems to matter at the worst possible time. So just get this done before you retire. It removes an enormous amount of uncertainty for people you love. Upgrade number 6 is right-sizing your insurance. The coverage that you carried during your working years was largely built around protecting your income. Life insurance to protect your salary if you weren't around, disability insurance to cover you if you couldn't work. But once earned income is gone, some of those policies don't serve the same purpose anymore. And you could be sitting on thousands of dollars a year in premiums for coverage that no longer makes sense. On the flip side, umbrella liability coverage and long-term care planning become more important in retirement because now you have a portfolio of assets to protect. And statistically, about 70% of adults turning 65 will need some form of long-term care during their lifetime. An extended care event without any kind of plan in place can do serious damage to a retirement portfolio that took decades to build. So right-sizing means trimming what's no longer serving you and reinforcing what actually protects what matters. I'm telling you guys, it's absolutely stunning here in Japan during cherry blossom season. Even though I'm filming this in 4K, I'm telling you the pictures and video simply do not do it justice. Now, upgrades 7 and 8, this is where the conversation gets a little uncomfortable because what I'm about to show you is that most retirees are building their withdrawal plan on a number that's basically fiction. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. So, upgrade number 7, your cash reserve. And this is about building it smarter, not necessarily bigger. See, in your working years, 3 to 6 months of expenses set aside, and you were generally fine. A paycheck was always on the way. But in retirement, you want to think about cash in 2 separate buckets. Bucket 1, a true emergency reserve. 6 to 12 months of living expenses and something stable and accessible. Not for normal spending, not for vacations, for the unexpected. I'm talking medical costs, a roof repair, a car, the stuff that comes out of nowhere. In bucket number 2, any large known expenses in the next 2 to 3 years. For example, a new vehicle, a home project, a trip that you've been planning. That cash needs to be identified and set aside before you start drawing from your investment portfolio. Because if it isn't, those expenses can force unplanned investment sales at exactly the wrong time. Maybe in a down market, just to cover something that you could have planned for. Look, this isn't about hoarding cash. It's about making sure that your portfolio can do its job without being interrupted by short-term needs. Upgrade 8, and this one surprises a lot of people, is upgrading your understanding of your actual spending. Not estimated, not calculated on a retirement calculator, actual. When a paycheck was landing every 2 weeks, it didn't really matter if you were a little fuzzy on the details. The money covered it. But in retirement, every dollar spending is coming from somewhere specific, and where it comes from has tax consequences. Running a 30-year retirement off a rough estimate is like navigating with a blurry map. You'll end up somewhere, just probably not where you meant to go. So make sure you track real spending for 3 to 6 months. Better yet, do it before you retire. We call this rehearsing retirement. You want to find out your real number, not what you think you spend, but what you actually spend. Because the people who skip this step tend to overspend early, draw from the wrong accounts, and then wonder why projections are drifting. These cherry blossoms are endless, guys. Upgrade 9, your Social Security strategy. And I want to be careful with that word because most people, they don't actually have one. They have a claiming age. That's an entirely different thing. Here's what most people don't realize. The right time to claim isn't just about maximizing the monthly check. It's about how your benefit interacts with your withdrawal plan, your Roth conversion window, and something called provisional income, which is how Social Security gets taxed. See, once your provisional income crosses certain thresholds, like $34,000 for single filers, $44,000 for married couples, up to 85% of your Social Security benefit can become taxable income. So, if you claim it at the wrong time and your income is structured the wrong way, you're not just leaving monthly dollars on the table, you're creating unnecessary taxable income every year for decades. Run the analysis first. Build your withdrawal plan around the Social Security decision, not the other way around. In Upgrade 10 is your survivor plan. I read about couples all the time where one spouse is mentally checked out of this part of the conversation. We saved well, the house is paid off, one Social Security check will keep going, we'll be fine. And then they genuinely believe it. But here's the math that almost nobody actually runs. When one spouse passes away, the survivor goes from filing jointly with wider tax brackets to filing single. The brackets compress immediately. IRMA surcharges hit earlier and harder. RMDs in the full traditional balance continue unchanged. And Social Security provisional income thresholds drop. The surviving spouse can end up paying a higher effective tax rate and less income with one fewer person in the household for potentially 15 to 20 years. That's not a planning failure. That's just what the default math does when nobody modeled it in advance. So for a lot of couples, seeing this picture early is the clearest argument for accelerating Roth conversions while both spouses are alive and the brackets are still favorable. So model it now, because it's almost always more surprising than people expect. So look, here's why the timing of all this matters as much as the upgrades themselves. The moment you tell people that you've retired, the calendar fills up. Trips get planned, family visits get scheduled, dinners, commitments. Everyone has an opinion about how you should be spending your newfound freedom. And if you haven't built the structure first, those decisions, made in an emotional, celebratory state, have a way of following you for 30 years. This isn't about hiding from retirement. This isn't about hiding from the people that you love. It's about giving yourself the space to make clear, intentional decisions before the outside world has a vote. So make sure that you do the upgrades first, then celebrate. You've absolutely earned it. If this was useful to you, hit the like button and drop a comment below. And subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one.